Welcome into Bucs Insider, coming to you from the Bucs studio, presented by Ticketmaster. Casey Phillips here with Scott Smith and Brianna Dix, and we are entering, we've talked about this last week a bit, we're in the dead zone. So what we decided to do is this is kind of one last Bucs Insider before we all take our little break that we get every year.
See you late July, right?
Yes, this is the final one before we're like, there's nothing going on until training camp. So first of all, we wanted to kind of set the scene a bit on what is going to be the next step. What is training camp going to look like this year? How long before it gets kicked off? So what are some of those details that fans might be wondering of? They're starting to get that desperation for football, that we're in that dead zone here. Tell us when they can expect it.
I think training camp starts tomorrow.
If only. And
That's what it feels like.
That is what it feels like.
It is going to get on as fast.
Yeah.
It actually, the very first thing would be the coaches, rookies, and anybody who's injured getting treatment reports on July 21. And that really is just right around the corner.
Yeah.
And then the veterans that are not injured report on July 22nd. And then the very first practice is the 23rd. The first practice that's open to the public, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, is the 24th. And then there's a ramp-up period. So the first practice is about an hour and a half, and then they add 15 minutes the second day, and they add 15 minutes the third day, and they start in no pads, and they add spiders, and then they get to full pads on the 29th. 28th is the first one that's fully padded. The first one that's open to the public is the 29th, and that is actually the night practice.
Which that's always so fun.
I think everybody gets jazzed.
And we don't
for
have to sweat bullets, so I enjoy it.
So it's soon, and there's Bree's going to talk about it a little bit more, but there's a lot of open practices that you can attend, and it's kind of a cherished tradition around here. It's the part of the year when fans and the team get really close. And everybody enjoys it. Because during the season, practices aren't open to the public. In fact, entire practices aren't open to the media.
Yeah, you only get that first 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, you kind of need that time to prepare without prying eyes. So this is the time for fans, and I think both sides really enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And so, there's always some different types of practices, and I'm sure a lot of the fans out there, when can I come? What's the practice for me? So what are some of the ones for them to take a peek at?
So a few of the days that are open to the general public: Thursday, July 24th, Friday, July 25th, and then Friday, August 1st. And then, of course, She Is Football is Tuesday, August 5th, and then the Military Day is Thursday, July 31st. But if you want to see a little bit more about kind of the slate of events throughout training camp, go to Buccaneers.com or the Bucs app to purchase tickets.
Yeah, so you can see on that graphic there, we got a bunch of those days open. So, figure out which one of those applies to you. And we hope to see as many of you out at training camp as possible. Make sure you say hi to all of us. We'll be roaming around looking sweaty and exhausted. But please come say hi to us if you are here at training camp. And again, if you've never been before, it's incredible. First of all, free parking. You've got covered bleachered seating, again, so we don't all fry like the surface of the sun. You got a kids zone. You got merchandise sales, concessions. Like, this really is a full big event production.
I assume there'll be Freezy Pops again, too.
Oh, there's always Freezy Pops.
Yeah.
It's just a necessity. And so, shout out to our events team. They do an incredible job every year. And if you have not been, this is not just coming to a practice. This is a big, full fan event with a lot going on and a lot of stuff for the whole family and kids. And it truly is an amazing experience. There's a lot of times that, the players will kind of sign some autographs occasionally. It's just a great opportunity to see the guys way more up close and personal than you get to in a lot of other situations. So, go ahead.
If you can't make it out to practice,
we will be doing
Casey
a live
and
show.
I will be doing a live show every day.
And so we will do our best to bring you into the action if you're not able to be here in person. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to have our training camp show, as we've done, I guess,
for years.
For the entire time I think I've been here, we've had one. So going into probably
every day that practice is open.
Yep, then we will be out there. And so we figured, again, before we kind of sign off for this next 6 weeks, we would kind of prime the discussion topics with some things that we're excited to watch during training camp. So let's start with just camp battles, because let's be real, that's what it's all about. That's what everybody loves about training camp. Whether it's for a starting spot, whether it's for a roster spot, that's what we are all so excited to watch and see what ends up happening. So Bree, tell me what kind of camp battle or position battle you're most excited to watch.
I think the one for me that sticks out is wide receiver. And I think it's loaded with talent, but to see who kind of emerges in that third and fourth spot behind Mike Evans, behind Chris Godwin. You have Sterling Shepard, you have Jalen McMillan, you have Emeka Egbuka, you have Tez Johnson, Trey Palmer. And I think really at the end of last year, we saw Jalen McMillan really come into his own. He became more comfortable in the system, was able to generate separation, kind of mid-route. But then they bring in a guy like Emeka Buka, who is our first-round pick, who is really kind of just above with his route running, really precise, can get separation with the timing, the spacing, and is kind of another big target for Baker Mayfield. Then you draft Tez Johnson in the 7th round, who's slippery, electric with the ball in his hands, and I think he's going to kind of play into the Bucs being able to generate those yards after catch. So I'm excited to see how that ends up playing out, who seems to be kind of the favorite and who gains the trust of Baker Mayfield.
I feel like every year at the beginning of camp we say, we got all these wide receivers.
So many.
Right.
How can we possibly get down to 5 or 6 or whatever for the 53-man roster? And then by the time it's time for final cuts, it's pretty obvious. And it's not, guys have had some good days, but they can't sustain it. This year, I think it's true.
I think this year is going to be.
I don't know how it's going to be hard to get down to 6.
Yeah, and there's always that guy that has an incredible preseason game or like an incredible couple days of practice that you didn't think had a shot, that then you start being like, ooh, what about this guy?
Think about Cameron Johnson last year. By the time training camp was over, you knew that guy was making the team, and he was an undrafted free agent.
Right, it's going to be crazy. Yeah, and for me, I'm kind of on the flip side of you, which means I think that you and I will be hanging out at practice a lot, watching some one-on-ones, because I am excited to watch the cornerback battle. And both kind of the outside and the nickel spot all has its own little intrigue to it. And, first the idea of moving Tyke Smith to safety. So then now, okay, what's the nickel spot going to look like? Who's taking that? You've had a few different guys vying for that. And then seeing a guy like Zion McCollum who took such a big jump last year, what does he look like this year? But then also, man, now you've got some challenges at multiple cornerback spots with your draft picks of Jacob Parrish, and you've got Benjamin Morrison, who just I feel like Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison have been drumming up a lot of excitement at these, mini camp practices and everything so far. And, I think because the Bucs drafted offense the first round, that some people may have thought, man, they didn't address defense as much as we thought they did. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, and especially with Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison. Yeah. I think those guys are going to be potential impact players right at the beginning, especially if, again, with Benjamin Morrison, really the only question is health, and he's almost looked like he's ahead of schedule on that front. So I just think that whole group, and then we even forget about guys like Bryce Hall, who was going to be the kind of third guy last year before he got injured, and you bring in Kendall Vildor. There's just so many people now at those different spots. And again, what does the nickel look like? What does the outside look like? And I think that some of those battles, and man, talk about being prepared for week one. You're going against this wide receiver room that is so unbelievable. That's going to be such a perfect test to see if these guys are having any success at all against a Mike Evans, against like all these guys. It's like, man, I think it's going to be a great sign of what's to come for them.
So you're saying we have cornerback depth?
Your favorite thing. Yay. Is it your birthday? I mean, man.
I agree. There's a lot of cornerback depth. And I think Jason Light was on a media appearance recently where he said he thinks that Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish can help a lot this year. And then Zion McCollum has also looked really good. And he's like, I don't know how many teams have 3 young cornerbacks with that much talent. And you're right. That's on top of Jamel Dean and Kendall Vildor and Bryce Hall. I mean, I'm excited about that position.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. So for you, what is your position?
Well, it's the edge rush, because I think that's the one, in addition to cornerback, I think that was the one position or area that the Buccaneers needed to work on in the offseason. It's not that we didn't have some good players and like Yaya Diaby, Anthony Nelson, and so on, but they want to generate more pressure off the edges. We generated a decent number of sacks last year, but as I think Breeze explained on a couple occasions, a lot of that had to do with blitz packages or simulated pressures where linemen were dropping, and Coach Bowles has said straightforward, we need more pressure out of just rushing 4. And it's funny because every time a big game happens where that happens, it's like a revelation to everybody. The 2 times the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl to last year and then before to us, it was such a big deal that there was so much pressure on Patrick Mahomes with only rushing 4. It's been a truism for the entire time I've been in the NFL. And the great Bucs defenses of the past, with Warren Sapp and Simeon Rice and so on, could always get pressure on with 4, and that puts a defense over the top. And I think that's what Todd Bowles wants. He's a defensive genius. I mean, really, he's a guru, obviously, and he works with what he's got. But if he can have a front line that can generate pressure out of 4. he can do so much more.
Yeah.
And so I know they've been saying this is the underwear Olympics, or T-shirts and underwear, but they will put on pads in training camp. They won't hit the quarterback if they want to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
But the edges will try to beat the tackles.
Yeah.
And we have 2 really good tackles. So if we're getting any kind of what appears to be pressure from Hassan Reddick, David Walker, Yaya Diaby, I find that potentially very exciting.
I agree. And so, yeah, we also wanted to talk about individual players we wanted to watch, and mine flows perfectly with that.
Good.
It's David Walker.
Yeah.
First of all, any player that makes Larry Foote react the way he did on draft day, I'm very excited about that. I think that something we've seen Jason Light be incredibly good at, and his staff, is finding someone from a potentially smaller school that gets overlooked maybe because they're from a smaller school, but to be able to see that what they did there will translate.
Okay.
And I feel like David Walker could be our next, Ali Marpet, Cody Mount, these guys
Luke Gedeke,
that you're seeing them dominate at that level, which is what you need to do. If you're not playing, you're not playing in the SEC or something, you better dominate at these lower consistently. And man, David Walker has done that. I mean, 3-year All-American, 3-time Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
Wow.
Won the 2024 Buck Buchanan Award as the best FCS defensive player after tallying 68 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, and 8 quarterback hurries last season. In his 34 games for his school, he totaled 191 tackles, 63 tackles for loss, 31 sacks, and 8 passes defense and 6 forced fumbles. Does that not sound like everything you want of all the stat lines, all the things of you're getting to the quarterback, you're forcing disruption, you're getting at the ball. It's everything that you want from, like I said, to try to bring pressure with 4. To get him at that late round of a selection, I feel like that is going to end up being an incredible value pick and a guy who really can challenge some of these other outside linebackers for some playing time, for some snaps. And also, on a side note, I just really enjoy him as a person.
I've heard that.
I just wanted to shout him out of being just an incredible rookie so far when he came in here. I was happened to just be in a hallway, came up, introduced himself to me, shook my hand, like, hi, I'm David Walker. And I know that sounds, small, but I mean, it's not necessarily. You got guys coming fresh out of college and they're overwhelmed. They got a lot going on. For him to just see someone in the hallway, he didn't know my role or who I was or anything, just introducing himself to people. And also when I did media training, he was one of the people that volunteered to come up and be one of my guinea pigs, which is always a scary thing. And so I think he just seems like a really stand-up guy that fits the whole I am that man idea, in addition to having just a padded stat sheet from college. So I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
I've got a side note there, too.
Yeah.
Did you say something about the Buck Buchanan Award?
Yeah.
I met Buck Buchanan.
Did you really?
Nice.
Look at that.
You want to hear how?
Yes.
I was an intern for the Kansas City Chiefs in 1992. We had a playoff game in Buffalo, and I don't remember all the details, but there was a side room off the locker room where we had 4 or 5 of the team's legends in that room, and I was an intern, and I was sent in to find Buck Buchanan and bring him out, and I walked into that room, and I had no idea who Buck Buchanan was. I mean, I knew theoretically who Buck Buchanan, but I'd never met him. I didn't know what he looked like.
And there weren't computers to Google.
No, I'm like, Mr. Buchanan?
Yeah. Anybody? Buck?
Yeah, so that didn't go great.
That
wasn't my greatest intern moment.
Not your greatest moment. I love it.
And I think one of the things with him, too, is that the question...
Buck Buchanan?
Yes.
No, David Walker.
Oh.
Is that how are they going to stack up against tougher competition, came from a smaller school. But I think the Senior Bowl is one of the things that really kind of boosted his draft stock. And a lot of our coaching staff, our scouts, talked about just how fun it was to watch him on tape, that he jumped out. He was always the best player on the field. And I think you've seen a little bit of that throughout rookie minicamp, throughout OTAs. You're seeing that explosiveness. You're seeing kind of the moves that he has in his arsenal already, but just his cerebral approach, the ability to kind of see the distribution of weight with tackles and all of those things have kind of come into play for him. So I'm excited to see what he does.
Yeah, and then I know you have another defensive guy you're excited to watch.
Yes. I'm going to go with, and we've talked a lot about Servassier Dennis, but I think just what he's shown throughout this offseason and just the shoulder injury last year, he was the guy that really made an impact on those third down kind of clear passing situations. But I think the coaching staff has even said that, a lot's been made about his ability to draw back in coverage, to kind of mitigate those plays over the middle of the field. But also, this was a guy at Pittsburgh that kind of took over that Mike linebacker role for Pat Narduzzi, but really, he was a really, really stout tackler, was really physical. So I think that's also something that may be a little bit more kind of under the radar with him. But, I mean, he had, I think, only like 3 or 4 missed tackles like throughout an entire season, and was a guy that really made an impact against the run as well. So I'm excited to see kind of how Todd Bowles uses him along with Anthony Walker kind of in that rotation opposite Levante David, and to see kind of what they're able to do in the middle of the defense.
And I know when it comes to players to watch, we were probably not the most surprising picks necessarily. I mean, we didn't pick a Mecca, I think everybody's like, obviously. But you had quite the dark horse candidate here of a player you wanted to watch. I really appreciated the not that you didn't just go a Mecca. I'm gonna go deep cut, deep track, not the radio release. We're going deep cut here.
Yeah, this guy's never taken a snap in the NFL.
Hence why we're excited to maybe see him try to do that.
I'm talking about quarterback Michael Pratt, and we didn't get to see a lot of him in the offseason because he was dealing with some kind of undisclosed injury. Coach Bowles downplayed it, said it was nicked up, and then he'd be ready for training camp. The reason I'm interested in this is, okay, so this was, last year the big 6 quarterbacks were drafted in the first 12 picks, right? It was like historic, the number of picks. You know, the next quarterback drafted was Michael Pratt. And he was drafted by Green Bay. They actually let him go in the final cuts, and the Buccaneers picked him up. And I think they feel like this is a guy they can develop. He was he's a guy at Tulane who showed a lot of touch. He improved every single year. His last year, I think he threw like 28 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's careful with the football. And I think the interesting thing here is, seeing how well he does he convince the Buccaneers to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster instead of 2? Does he even push for the number 2 job? You know, I mean,
all the Florida Gator fans are yelling at you right now.
I understand, and he deserves. He obviously has the inside track, and he should. But does Michael Pratt push him for it?
Yeah, and I think that's always good. Again,
it's a decent storyline.
Competition helps. You know, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. Competition is always good at every position, backup, starter, whatever. And I think that's going to be fun to watch. And again, it's always nice when you feel like you're not going to play Baker that much in the preseason. You need other quarterbacks, and it's a lot more fun when there might be a bit of a battle storyline when you're watching some of these preseason games. So I think that'll be fun. All right, so just when you think this time of year that there's no roster news, there's no new signings, just when you think that, we have one. The most important signing, in my opinion, that the Bucs have made in quite a while. I would like to introduce the newest Buccaneer, my new puppy. I know. Does this have anything to do with the Buccaneers? Nope. But I am that obsessed puppy mom that doesn't care and just needed the world to see these photos. I mean, look at this. Like, I can't. And so obviously we had to throw in that she's ready. She's ready for the football season.
You didn't say her name.
It's Birdie Battle, which is
cuteness
kind of a golf related thing, but also just a cute name, and the only child tag. We thought we were pretty funny
You
with
told
that.
us a story that she had a contentious relationship with a ball.
She did, and we actually have footage of this moment where I was like, we got to make this a sports pup. So this is the first time she's encountering a ball. She's a retriever. We thought this will be fine. Nope, not fine. Absolutely not fine. We don't know what's happening. This ball is our arch enemy. So this went on forever. Like this video could have been our whole show. So I just want everyone to know we're working on the ball skills before training camp. We gotta have better ball security. We gotta really attack it. You know, like Bowles says, like don't just get a hand on it.
She's got turnover opportunities here.
She has the chance to go for the loose ball, and she's just not going for it. We got real tired from that. It was very emotionally exhausting.
That's an impressive backpedal, though. I was
she got the good hip movement, hip turn, and relentless. We don't stop. We got to, even though we're a little concerned, we keep going for it. So that was all. We wanted to introduce the newest Buccaneer, Birdie Battle,
who has not been to the office yet.
We're working on that. I don't want her to pee all over the office. We're working on the ball skills and the peeing where we're supposed to pee. Now, if you're willing to sacrifice your office potentially,
I'll take the risk because I really want to meet Birdie.
Okay, perfect. We'll bring little Birdie in and we'll work on the ball skills and where we pee. And I think she might make an appearance at training camp one day. If people didn't have enough reasons to come to training camp, that may happen. Because let's be real, a photo of her with like Baker or Tristan, that's going viral.
Yes.
Like who doesn't love a giant football player holding a tiny puppy? It's adorable.
She's not that tiny.
I know. Gosh, she really isn't. I'm already I'm going to pick her up, and I'm like, oh God, we've gained a few pounds this last week. All right, well that's going to do it for us. We again are going to take our little hiatus here for a few weeks while there's not a lot of football or things going on, but then we will come back with a vengeance right before training camp to have all of the information there, and again have our training camp show as well. So as always, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you then.